Record on this computer. All right.
So then I says, oh, we're recording?
Yeah, we're recording.
Cool.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah. This is a really impromptu thing. So I'm really grateful that you'll come on because what is this like? This is like video number 2 on my YouTube channel.
Little disappointed I'm not number 1, just for my own ego.
Well, you're the number 1 guest. I was my own guest, the first one. So there you go. There you go.
So wait a sec, did you interview yourself? Was it like super creepy?
Well, some of the feedback I've gotten is that I was a little convoluted and didn't make my point well. And I sort of
From yourself? Yourself told yourself that?
Well, no, other friends. I thought I did great. That's my ego.
So who cares?
I was just like, nailed it.
That's the type of attitude that'll keep a podcast going. It's just not listening to honest criticism and just believing that everything you do is awesome.
I can do that. I can pull that one off. But yeah, no, I mean, we talked about doing this thing and chatting together. And mainly, I think the reason for that, good sir, Mr. Drew, is we always have killer conversations on the phone when we do sort of touch base, right?
It's always a shame that it doesn't get recorded. So here's the one time we got to record it because we just got to do it. So like every now and again, for people who are listening who don't know, like me and Justin have been friends for what am I, 37? So like 18 years we've been friends, been in a band, close friends. And we've grown up, have families, we've moved apart, but every now and again we'll get on a phone and it gets pretty epic. Because Justin is the type of guy that sort of vibes off of the energy he's given. Would you agree?
Yeah, I guess I would. Man, life is such a trip even getting to know yourself, isn't it? And yeah, for sure. I'm learning more to choose what vibes to be around. Again, which is, and we've talked about that so much too, about not to name any names, but like, people in your life that you get excited about an idea and they just say, oh, well, I mean, have you thought about how it won't work this way? And have you thought about this? And you're just like, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Like, like
there's something that people will say, and I don't think I really understood it for a while, where they say not to let people know what your next move is. And I don't think it's to like surprise people or so that other people don't copy you. It's probably mostly so that they don't bring you down and you can get to the actual move before they stop you from starting it.
Yeah, because like we're experts at stopping ourselves too. I mean, even when you get a good idea and inspiration, it's like, this could really work. And if you give yourself a couple minutes, your brain that is all about just making you survive and avoid discomfort will talk you down out of it.
Yeah, well, one thing that every human is amazing at is justification, whether it's justifying something for themselves or justifying something against themselves. Whenever you come up with a great idea, you're bound to have feelings about how it's not going to work. And that's not always for the worst. Like sometimes it'll prevent you from falling down certain pitfalls. Like, I better watch out for this, and that's good. But if you get reinforced on the negative before you get reinforced on the positive, you may actually not do it, period.
Right. And we've talked a lot about sort of the 1%, and that can really mean a lot of different things. I mean, certain things come to people's mind, but we've talked about how to be kind of the 1% of anything really largely comes down to simply doing it. And doing it probably includes consistency, things like that. But I imagine we'd be shocked at how large of a percentage of people do it and push really hard up to that point where they're just about to break through and be successful at a thing, but they've been kind of knocked around or had enough failures along the way. They're just like, this doesn't work or whatever. And they don't even realize they're this close to busting through. But that's the difference of kind of the 1% in so many things. It's
kind of a shame because most of the things that you want to try that are new to you. And so you don't know what to expect. So you may not even know what success is when you're on the route to it. And I've been like that oftentimes. And a lot of times I have to have other people being like, man, you're doing really well and really close to this thing. I'm like, I don't feel like I'm close to this thing. But then what you really need is somebody who's done it before to get advice from. And I got that advice from someone who was in their own self-made business before I ever was, years before I ever was. I run my own businesses now, but before then I was taking a lot of advice from people who had successfully done it because they kind of have that fog of war lifted because they're further down the path, instead of trying to bumble through it myself, which there are points you have to do that anyways. But the more you can like get some, even just like a good one-liner that will help you be like just a little bit of direction, man, you can take that for a long way.
Okay. Yeah. Damn. I'm wanting to, that makes me think of so much stuff that I want to talk. I mean, like you've built quite a thing, and I know you've told some of your story in various ways. You have a large audience that you connect with through Instagram and all kinds of ways that I don't fully understand. And so I'm always picking your brain. And like I said at the top, this is the second video on a YouTube channel I'm just trying. And I literally, at this point, don't totally know what it's even about. I don't, but I know this conversation's interesting. So this is in there. But so I'm thinking about how I can add some value to the people that know you through this brand and this jiu-jitsu world that you have just absolutely crushed.
Well, why don't we give just a little bit of backdrop to myself as a business person, as a martial artist, and then we can carry on the conversation wherever the hell we want to go after that.
Well, I can take it further back than that to like crazy shit I've seen you do and your personality and stuff. Not too far. But just, I mean, I think people that get to know you now understand that you're a very genuine person, but there may also be people, I don't know, who see you as just, you know, this guy connected to this business and all that and don't know you really well. And it's easy for a lot of people to put on an image of really caring about what they do in their community and stuff like that. But dude, I was there when you were just starting this stuff and you talked so much about, well, I remember your tournaments and you described it as a jiu-jitsu tournament by, you know, jiu-jitsu people for jiu-jitsu people, right? And you did the tournaments and you kind of knew what you wanted what you'd love to see in there and all that. And you just built that thing. And like, I was along for some parts of that ride to see some of the blood, sweat, and
CG animation for me. I remember that.
Yeah, way early on, didn't I?
Yeah, that was my second tournament in like 2012.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That was fun.
Yeah, you're part of it. And so for people who don't know who I am, I run several businesses right now. The online thing at this point is mostly on Instagram, which is called BecauseJitsu, which is basically a meme page that has at this point blown up to the point that it's the largest Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu meme page in existence on Instagram. So I've managed to build that up and branch it out to a bunch of other businesses now that I'm trying to sort of personify myself through that, because the meme page has its own image, but nobody really knew the admin at that point. And in the last couple of years, I managed to get my black belt in the martial art, which took a long time. It was a 12-year journey to get a black belt. It doesn't come overnight in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But at that point, I decided that now's the chance, now's the time that I want to make my my brand myself a little bit. And that's the direction I've been pushing lately, to try to turn it into myself as an instructor. So that's kind of where the online is going right now. But then in the real world, I'm actually broadcasting right now from my own jiu-jitsu gym that I own and operate 6 days a week. So that's my full-time job. It took a long time to get there too. I was 15 years in a trade I didn't want to be in before I finally pulled the trigger and made that happen. And we're like 2.5 years into that right now.
Man. And yeah, it's been inspiring to me to listen to you talk about coming from welding and all that. You remember I worked with you at Harborcraft out there, right?
Oh, I don't. I do remember that now. Yeah,
I did.
You were there, weren't you, for like 3 months or something?
Yeah, something like that. I got those little dime welds on there. I was doing okay. And I grinded some shit and got like hot flakes in like my eye a couple times.
I remember making a carrying case for your Xbox, your original Xbox. It was all out of aluminum and it was warped to shit, but I thought it was so cool.
That's because I was going to a camp with a bunch of turds that thought didn't think I should have an Xbox, and I knew they were going to try to steal it. And we welded that bottom part and then a part that you like built the thing. Oh yeah. I designed it out of cardboard or something, and then you cut the matching aluminum pieces and welded that together. And I had the bottom piece that I bolted to a wood table, put the Xbox in, and then the top part went like hot dunk, and like we locked it. You could hit it with a sledgehammer. Elon Musk would have been very proud,
Very
and
proud.
nobody could pick it up and get out of there with it. You know, like it was just like, man, it's not going anywhere. And it was awesome. I think they
You
stole
know
the
what's funny?
controllers or something.
To go full ADD on you while you're talking about making things together. So besides the fact that you like designed that box and I created it, there was another time later on after I had got my journeyman ticket in welding and I had my own welding machine at home where you had drawn a raptor, sort of like a 3D render of a raptor.
Yeah.
And you have this cool cartoon kind of style to drawing them. If anybody who's seen Justin's style would recognize it right away. And I decided that just for shits and giggles, I was going to build it out of stainless steel. So I welded it like exact. I took the picture from the internet and like size for size built it into this living 3D thing that was what, about 6 inches tall or something like that.
Yeah.
10 inches long, something. But the weirdest thing happened that I was not expecting. I was expecting to have to weld it to a pedestal. But once I finished building the thing, I set it down and it was perfectly balanced.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now
that blew my mind.
that was so cool. You like freaking surprised. That was like you gave me that for like a birthday or something like that years ago.
Yeah,
like,
I gave it to you for a birthday present.
Yeah, it's just this like sketch of a raptor, and you totally welded it, and you made it into 3D, and it was about the same proportions, the feet and stuff. Now, to be fair, I used to draw my characters with fairly good sized feet, like not like platforms or nothing, but you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was cool how it balanced. And I got wondering when you said that because that was before I went to animation school in Vancouver, right?
Yep.
I killed it in animation school, man. I killed it. You know they didn't want to accept me into that school?
Really?
Yeah, I know.
What did you have to do to get accepted?
Well, I was so green to animation software and things like that. You and me, we made some movies, some of which, by the way, I am forbidden from showing.
Absolutely.
We made a couple of kind of ninja-ish movies back before either of us knew fuck
Back
all.
when I wore skate pants with holes in the crotch, and I believe one scene sent me to the hospital, so that'll stay off the record.
All right, we'll get off that topic. That was a good time though, but I didn't know anything about filmmaking either. I don't want anybody to see that thing. I don't think. Although I'm kind of crazy like that. I'm the kind of nut that would post something like that, but I won't because you're a black belt. What was I talking about before that? Oh, animation school. They didn't want to accept me because like what I did for animation at that point was just like hand drawn or whatever. And they wanted to see examples of 3D. And all I had was Corel Draw and I knew nothing. So I built shapes that were kind of the shape of a person. And I made animations by physically moving those objects frame by frame. Yeah, I did walk cycles and stuff like that. And if anybody is in the animation world kind of gets what I'm talking about, they know that that's ridiculous.
It's tricky.
And they didn't like my art. My art was kind of too sloppy and busted up and stuff. They just, I don't know. Or maybe they didn't like the weird content.
So how'd you get in?
I kind of stayed on their ass about it and sort of redid the art and the sort of animation tests to kind of apply. I sort of redid it 2 or 3 times until literally it felt like they were finally like, ugh, all right, you just barely made it in.
Well, there's a good example of not taking the negativity as like, this is my stopping block. I guess I'm not good enough. And not only that, not only were you good enough, but when you got in there, like you're saying, you fucking killed it.
I did. I really killed it, man, because I wanted it bad and I loved it. And I made animations at home all the time.
Yes.
And
you
so
did claymation when you were in grade school.
Yeah, I had like hours.
That takes some time.
It took some time. I used to come home from school and just disappear in there and make like frame after frame after frame until I had to pee so bad I was going to explode. It's like, okay, I gotta go pee. And then, but I don't know why I got on that. But that's why that raptor was balanced. Because in animation, stuff's got to be balanced. It's easy to make a pose in 3D when there's no real weight to things that, well, it's not actually quite balanced and somebody has to fix that. I just had a knack for seeing what felt right, and that turned into killing it at school, working for Microsoft and Silicon Knights at the time. That's an interesting story. And then ending up working on 9 that Tim Burton produced. And that was great. It was great.
So tell me, what got you out of animation? Because you no longer do it for a living. You definitely still have the skills. What about is it the industry itself that kind of wasn't what you thought it would be?
No, it's a weird part of my personality where I do something and I do it really well. And I get to a point where I've sort of proven to myself that like, okay, I win at this. And then
Mm.
it's like, let's just completely throw it away and go see if I can win at something else, you know?
But
And
look,
that,
man, you say that's a weird thing, and it's only weird because other people do it. But to be honest, I see people that get so damn good at something that I wonder, like, why why do you still have to do this? Why do you still have to get better when you're better than everybody that you can name?
mm,
Like there's no award for that. It's like almost a psychosis at a point where they have to keep doing it
mm,
beyond where it's ever even useful. And look, like you've only got between maybe 40 to 80 good years on this earth
easy.
to exist and try to experience all these things that would actually interest you, maybe as much as that one thing that you got tunnel visioned on. So why the hell wouldn't you?
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good way to put it. I mean, I guess one answer to why wouldn't you is having money in the bank at some point. I was getting paid well. Do you
Yeah.
remember? I used to like, I didn't know what the hell to do with money at that
Mm.
point. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden I was getting a decent paycheck and I living by myself in an apartment. I'm like, what am I going to do with my time? So I bought all these Xbox games and shit. And I'm like, this would be more fun with someone else. And so I would like buy 2 copies of everything and just like
Yeah.
mail it to you. I'd be like,
Yeah.
all right, hop on, let's
I
play.
remember that.
Yeah. What I probably should have done is banked a little bit of that money, but oh
Yeah.
well, whatever.
Hey man, but let's branch this off into a hot topic right now, because this could easily go into the idea and the argument behind universal basic income, UBI. This is
Whoa.
something that the American government is looking at the viability of. I don't envy them because they have such a giant population to try to make that a reality. But here's the idea: is people on one side of the bleachers are going to say this is just going to make lazy people lazier. They're not going to do anything with their life, and there's some validity to that.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, it's going to empower people who are only being held back in an area where they make money, but they don't want to exist. So like myself in welding, like you in whatever, you were stuck somewhere that was just making money, but you were done with it.
Hmm.
And if people who have talent, have an artistic drive, have ingenuity, but are being held back by a monetary blockade, a roadblock, if that were taken care at least to the point that they don't have to worry about food and shelter, and they could actually go out and do things and try things and find things that they could actually improve not only themselves but the human race. They could make inventions, they could make breakthroughs, they could take it to the nth degree, they could cure cancer, but they were stuck at McDonald's. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
A few things. I mean, I think it's interesting that you added in the part there, at least cover, their roof and food, just the basics. Like you're allowed to live.
A lot of people work their entire day just for that.
Oh yeah.
They'll work 60 hours a week.
Yeah.
Just for that.
Because when you bring it up, well, first of all, I'm like, whoa, we're going there. But when you bring it up, I'm thinking like stuff still has to get produced and businesses have to still exist. I mean, we're not at this point where AI robots can just take over everything, maybe one day, I don't know, maybe in our lifetime, the way some stuff's going, but I'm not totally opposed to it, but it's got to come from somewhere, I figure. And then I also think that the old kind of Federal Reserve system is sort of on its last legs. There's a couple ways of looking at that and coming to that conclusion. I think that. So perhaps there is more money to do exactly that than it seems when looking at it from what we're used to with an old system.
Well, let's pro and con a little bit, because you brought up a really good point about if people are in these low income jobs that only barely sustain them to go back to it the next day, and they have the ability to not do that, they're probably not going to do that. Right. But I would say the retort to that would be, if you're only covering their food and lodging, if they want to do anything interesting, they still need a job. So if they don't have the credentials to do something yet, they would still have to find that somewhere. So I don't think that the service industry would disappear overnight. People in that industry would live better because the money they make could be put towards things that matter to them instead of just surviving to get back to work.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think that's an important distinction. So it's like me and probably some others don't start thinking that that's kind of a socialist argument or something like that. Like we're just all like, the whole, we're just going to control all the money and just give everybody even. It's not exactly that. It's more like you say, we're going to cover just the basic stuff.
Yeah,
Probably not a
which I
lot of
mean,
money. Maybe it's similar to the CERB thing they've been doing in some ways. It's not a lot of money, but it's enough money that if you're not an idiot with it, not a total idiot, like you don't want the government funding people just like shooting up whatever the heck,
no, for
all
sure.
that. But if
For
you're not
sure.
an idiot, it's like you can eat and have a really inexpensive roof over your head with this. And then, like
Yes.
you say, it's like, okay, that's not going to be enough for most people. So continue to do a business, and
Look,
that.
we live in a country, Canada, both of
Mm,
us, that by American standards is socialist. We have a social safety net that they don't have when it comes to Medicare, when it comes to medical coverage. Okay,
mm,
we can break a bone in this country and just walk into any hospital and have them set it for no cost. And
mm,
of course, the argument is, well, you pay through your taxes all the time, but it's different than when you're an American paying taxes already and got to go pay $20,000 now for a surgery you weren't expecting, a small
right.
surgery,
Yeah.
just getting your shoulder put back in after a biking accident or something like that. That's um, that's a utopian society in comparison up here where we don't have to pay that.
Mm,
So, I mean, depending where
mhm.
you're looking from, this is just another type of social safety net, but this time it's for poverty instead of medical.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of power in privatization of that stuff. And I know a lot of
Mhm.
people, they don't agree with me on that, but
Well, we do kind of have it privatized up here. It's public to the point of basic healthcare, but if you want like a specialist surgery, it's going to be you're paying out of pocket, right?
yeah, maybe some of the issue is all the red tape that the government puts on everything. So it's privatized, but also controlled and regulated to the point that it's kind of defeats the point of privatization too. So,
Yeah, to a point. And I
mm,
mean,
mm, mm,
being right next to the US, they're the leaders in pretty much everything medical anyways.
mm,
So you can just hop the border if you need like super service, but again, you're paying out of pocket.
yeah.
Going back to the UBI thing for just a second. So besides, I don't think that it would kill the service industry. Not only do I think that people would stick with their jobs, or at least jobs of the like, just out of like people get into a routine, and some people, a lot of people will stick in that routine their entire life, their entire working life. They'll just find a job. It's like, I'm just going to work. But if they feel like they're getting more out of it because they can do more with the money they're making, they
Hmm.
might actually be happier at that job. It may
Hmm.
not be a shit job to them anymore if going to McDonald's means that now I can pay for a decent car.
Yeah.
Now I can get, a new PS4,
Hmm.
instead of like all of this goes to rent on payday, all of this disappears the day that I got it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's an awful feeling. And certainly there would be benefits. And it would be interesting to see a system that enabled people to have, for the first time in their lives, the ability to stop and think about, okay, what actually could I do now that I'm able, and maybe not to be rich doing this, but I could stay home for a year and research a subject
Mm.
and try to start something, or however people want to do it. I mean, I do like the idea of ways to give people the freedom to really try to do their life the best, in any way they think, right,
Yeah,
that they want to
dude,
try.
this is something that you and me really vibe on, is the freedom to try things, because it's something that I think both of us have had a lot of success through so far, but
Mhm.
it's because we've shot a lot of shots.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
both of us, we're not landing 100% on anything. In fact, a lot of things, most things we do don't work, but we're
Right.
not taking that as a loss as much as just, well, on to the next thing kind of thing.
Yeah.
And man, like lately, since my 30s, I'm 37 now and you're 38, right? So we're coming into the end of our 30s, but generally I find that this decade of life, people sort of figure out their business path a little bit,
Yeah.
generally speaking. I mean, there's
As you've
people all
said.
over
Yeah.
the board. Yeah. But in that journey for myself of trying to figure out the world for myself, what can I do here? What can I make here? It's actually blowing my mind since leaving the workforce, how much autonomy you actually have over your own income. Like there was this glass ceiling above my head that I was really happy with for decades. like since I was 18 years old. Like I said, I'm 37 now, so almost 20 years in the workforce. I guess I started when I was 14, so over 2 decades in the workforce. And just like the last 2.5 years have opened my mind to, I was kind of trapped in a box, and happily trapped in a box, but I didn't even know the box existed. And the moment that I took that glass ceiling off over my head, kind of the floor underneath me fell through at the same time. So you're in this weird limbo where you have to figure out like how to fall or how to fly. And it's actually surprisingly easier than I thought to fly. And the liberty that gives you for your income. Think about working at a place and doing your damnedest to get a raise at the end of the year. Christmas is coming up. I want that Christmas bonus. I worked like a mother this year, and I'm going to get that $10,000 bonus. You could have been putting all that time and work into your own business, and your raise could happen every day you come to work if you work hard enough at it. And that is really only it's really only stopped by your own drive, your own ingenuity. Like if you continue, if you're hungry for it, and reward yourself and keep thinking positively, like you're saying, staying around people who encourage you, not staying around people who don't, it just happens. And it's weird because I don't feel like I work as hard as I should for what I've got. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. Yeah. I mean, I definitely go through spells where I work my freaking ass off, and then I go through chunks of time where I am blown away at how much I accomplish doing what feels like very little.
Yeah, you almost feel guilty at some points during those coasting points, right?
Yeah, but it is a lot of it's a bit of a bumpy road that moves in the right direction, and I mean necessarily.
But you're the motor on that roller coaster, you know, like it's up to you, which is kind of a blessing and a curse. But a lot of people look at it as a curse when they're stuck in the box. You know, they're like, if it's all up to me, I'm going to fail, and then everything's on me, and then I won't. You know, I'm going to have to forfeit. I'm going to go bankrupt. I'm going to lose a house, and they all go down this spiral of negativity instead of like, no, I'm going to do great. I'm going to expand my business. I'm going to have employees. I'm going to get a bigger house. You know, this is exactly as possible as the opposite.
Yeah. And and it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to think of everything involved with doing that stuff. And that's why you stop yourself instead of like you kind of just described, just put the vision there and then just go the fuck after it.
Well, speaking of visions, why don't you talk about your vision board? Like you're one of the more active people I know when it comes to self-inspiration.
Yeah. Well, as we've talked about, I lean very hugely these days into believing the spiritual component of it. You know, I think that's all real and everything. And I really believe how you are is how everything around you is. And so, which is also why even talking about like this income thing and stuff, there's a part of me like I see a lot of benefits to it too, but I almost see more benefit in just information and spoken word and what we're doing now and talking about just we've both lived, you know, to varying degrees and in different ways that this is possible, that if you get after it and you do sort of jump when it's uncomfortable to do so, it is amazing how on your feet you can land and how many things you can figure out along the way.
There was a story, if I want to riff off that, because there was something really interesting you said there that I don't know if you realized you said it, was the information. That's really what this age is. People say we're in the information age, but they don't really understand the power to that. Like information is a commodity. And this is something that you not only can sell, but you can also become better because of. So like a lot of what I do online is digital intellectual property. Okay. It's ethereal. It's shit that's like, you can't put your hands on, you know, but people eat it up because information is everything. Just like we're doing right now, podcasting, we're portraying and conveying our information to people's brains while they're working, while they're driving. This is something that is free to take in that can actually improve your life. And a lot of people do. I've taken giant improvements personally from podcasts, period. Like for the last 5 years or so, I've been listening to podcasts pretty much daily. And some of them are just for fun. Some of them are very intellectual. Some of them are very inspirational. And you can pick your own topic and really get to like a very good base level of understanding on something very quickly. That's
Mm-hmm.
something that didn't exist 100 years ago. You had to specialize in a trade that your father passed down to you. You know what I mean? Like you
Mm-hmm.
couldn't just like, well, today I want to find out how to roof my house. You could find that out on YouTube in 10 minutes.
Well, more than learning a trade that was passed down from your parents, but you learn a culture and a perspective
Yes.
connected to a world that isn't that world now.
Mm-hmm.
And we grow up in our environment and we become hardwired to the crazy. And I mean, maybe we're fortunate in a lot of ways. It's kind of crazy right now. I mean,
Very.
there's more stuff to trip over, more stuff that can go wrong today, but there's also more opportunities, more power in the hands of individuals than there's ever been, and more lies than there's ever been to people
Mm-hmm.
about telling them they don't have power. And
All
people,
of this is the use of that commodity of information. It's
yes,
super powerful to be used however you want. You know,
yeah.
you give a sledgehammer to somebody that can lift it above their head, they can do great work or great damage.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, information doesn't have a moral component. It's just
Mm-hmm.
information. And where did I want to go? Well, you asked about my vision board, and yeah, I'm
Right.
big on that because the vision board is very much what you talked about just get that image and just drive after it. And we've talked about this, like the different ways of looking at it. Well, and I'll just mention two. There's a third, but fuck it. And but the two ways. I mean, there's people like a very scientific kind of approach, and
Mm-hmm.
is that kind of fair to say that you sort of lean in that category
Yeah,
in
I
some
have a
ways?
natural propensity to go towards logic, and I blame my dad for that. He was a math, science, physics teacher, so it was kind of bred into me.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough. And well, I mean, contrary to that, I lean way on the spiritual end of the spectrum. And that's, I
Mm-hmm.
guess, bred into me through experience and stuff that I've experienced and perceived over the last like 6, 7 years of my life. And it's been pretty nuts. I mean, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I would have thought a lot of the stuff I think today was super hokey. I'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
but like, those are just walls, I think, and I've come through so many, and I'll talk about that stuff sometime. But there's the spiritual way of looking at something like a vision board, and that's imagining the future and the direction that you want to go. But you could also look at it scientific. It's just a practical thing that, of course, if that's the first and last thing you see. I mean, with my vision board, I put it on my wall right beside my bed. So it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty much, even if I'm not doing so good to be consciously thinking about this stuff, it's the first and last thing I see. So it's
Nice.
always there, man. It's
Yeah.
always there. It's always affecting it's always in just my thoughts and everything. Always. Like I'll think
Yeah.
of specific images on there multiple times throughout the day, and they're just,
Mm-hmm.
and I gotta tell you, there are creepy, excitingly creepy things that sort of come true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah. Well, let's look at this. Like, I know you're kind of trying to wedge a spiritual aspect into here, and at the same time,
only for myself.
awkwardly kind of poo-pooing it so that those people like myself aren't like, wow, this fucking guy. But I want to put some credence to it. Look, even if there isn't spiritual things happening, let's just look at it from a full realist's perspective, a humanist's perspective, however you want to say it.
We'll go Sam Harris on it.
Going full Sam Harris, right?
Okay.
We're nothing but the brain in our brain.
Yeah.
Even if that's the case, believing that there's a spiritual component will actually drive you. It'll drive you far and hard. I mean, there's a reason religions work. It's because
Depending on what you mean by that.
no, they do. Look. Anybody that's a true believer in whatever you want, whether this is a true believer that ended up in a cult drinking the Kool-Aid, they believed it so much to kill themselves. That drove them far.
Yeah.
Right? That drove them past the brink of our prime directive to stay alive. That's very powerful.
That is very powerful.
You looking at that vision board and believing that there's spiritual things happening, whether it's like the manifestation of your energy being put into that coming true, whatever it is, even just the belief in that will perpetuate your belief in doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So from a purely logical standpoint, it's kind of a placebo at the very worst, which is great.
Right.
If a placebo cures your cancer, it's great. Use it.
Right. So yeah, like if we both put both of our kind of perspectives into the mix here, like you said, I agree with you. At worst,
can't lose.
it's a seems to be an effective placebo, at least to some degree, at the worst.
At the worst. And at the best, you're tapping into something fucking amazing.
Exactly. Exactly. I don't know, man. I
And look,
believe in all that tapping into amazing shit. I talked to
I'm
Drew
not the
for 10
kind of
minutes. I'm
guy.
like, I just tapped into something amazing.
I'm not the type of guy that's going to tell somebody that what they believe isn't true, because I'm not smart enough to know better. But I really enjoy listening to everybody's input on a given topic, because I can't be expected to be an expert in anything more than what I am right now with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And even that, you know, there's spectrums and levels to it. I don't consider myself privileged enough to have a strong opinion about anything that matters. And I don't think that that's a problem. I much enjoy listening to experts in their field and sort of just vetting it for myself against each other in my own brain. Because what should it matter what I believe compared to what you believe? I don't have autonomy or authority over you.
Mm-hmm.
So why should I try to impose that on somebody who doesn't have my beliefs?
Yeah. You know, people are so poor at so many things today, and one of them is just thinking, and so many
or even just listening.
Well, listening is a huge skill that so much of humanity needs to relearn and grow at. But so many people, I believe, kind of think that thinking is simply, oh, that's an interesting idea, I guess I'll just latch on to that, instead of sort of playing both sides of the jury within yourself. And like, well, why do I believe this? And how do I tear this apart? And shredding it down to like, I'm fairly comfortable here.
Yeah, like this is the Socratic method, right? The Socratic method of Socrates, like asking why, constantly asking why. And not just why to the person who's on the other side of the aisle, why to yourself, so that you understand what you believe. And maybe you find out that you shouldn't believe that because you kept asking why and it fell apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I have to do, bringing it back to the real world for a second, in jiu-jitsu constantly. As an instructor, I have to know the why, because I'm conveying it to people who are paying me to teach them how to do this. And so you not only have to know the how, which is like you put your leg here and pull the arm there, but you have to know the why, because
that's all there is to it.
when things get messy and things are happening live in a sparring round, if you understand the why, you can adjust the how to fit it. And that's super important, because if it's not true, it won't work.
Right. Yeah. And I remember finding that very interesting when I heard you at some point, maybe it was on your show, the podcast you do, talking about the why behind it. That's the deeper foundational level. And but these ideas people latch onto, that's just a good point to begin thinking. But people just, nope, I guess it's that. And I swear, man, there are so many people who think they believe a lot of stuff, but they do not even understand at all why they believe that. They've been so hijacked, the biological androids that people are. they've been so hijacked, and they're just running a program that they think they programmed into themselves that they didn't. Maybe they were complicit or participated to some degree, but I tell you, man, it's like this epidemic of people that don't have a clue why they believe what they believe. And there's people who do, of course. You're going to find both in everything.
Yeah, of course. There's something that I've translated into my own study of jiu-jitsu that comes from philosophy called epistemology. I don't know if you've looked into that very much, and you really don't have to look into it very far to start taking the fruits from it. And basically what it is it's a branch of philosophy that has to do with, I just looked up the dictionary definition of it, so I'll just read that out real quick, because it gets to it real quick. Okay, so it says epistemology can be translated as knowledge or understanding. And I'm going through the Greek here. Basically, it's the study of knowledge. So what is knowledge? How do we define knowledge? How do we justify knowledge? And this is something that's super meta. Okay, it's very conceptual, but it is the foundation of truth, is the vetting of ideas. Okay, so epistemology is the study of how to vet ideas, basically.
Awesome. The first video I did in this YouTube channel, I tried to come up with my thoughts on that, and it was something to do with being honest in your communication about the stuff that you're very confident that you know, kind of the stuff that you feel confident you can make a comfortable intellectual case for, and be very comfortable saying, I know this to be true. And then the other stuff that's like, I kind of strongly suspect this to be true, but I can't make a great case for it. And that's sort of a category of its own. And then the lowest category is just, if I was forced to make a guess, I guess I put my vote in on here, that this is the way it is, but that's the best I can do, and I guess it's egos, isn't it? That we get so hung up on having to prove it to people and stuff like that. And that's an interesting one when we talk about like spiritual versus not spiritual. I mean, how do we have like an ego and hearts and like thoughts versus feelings and things like that if it's all just biological? I mean, if I'm going to go Sam Harris with you, you're going to go Abraham Hicks with me.
Well, I mean, this comes back to a lot of Sam's ethos is about consciousness. So a lot of his study is on the study of consciousness because he's a neurobiologist. He looks at it from a humanist perspective of we're all cells and electrons and neurons, and this is how it works when they fire, and it does this. And if you take this away, it doesn't do that. But none of it answers what and how consciousness even exists. And that's something that both the scientific and the spiritual community have been trying to explain and justify for a very long time. And I would very firmly and happily put myself in the category of, I'm not quite sure. And if I had to be forced to make a guess, it might be this, because nobody has a good answer to it. And for people who say they have a good answer, I'd be very leery about what they're saying, because I don't believe you can.
You said that to me one other time on a different topic we got on about when I gave you my thoughts on something, and you were like, you really appreciate what I said because I basically said, I ain't got a clue. Yeah. You know what I mean? You're like, that's like the best advice I could get. You know what I mean?
I mean, besides the fact that you can't be expected, I'm just saying you generally can't be expected to understand everything about everything, or even a lot about everything.
I'll take that on.
Yeah. Well, you shouldn't be expected to have a rooted, backed up opinion on any topic that comes to the table. And if you do, you're an idiot because you probably don't know enough about it. So to listen to somebody who does have like you were saying, you're in the category of, I'm pretty sure about this because I've done my research. I've had a lot of experience in this, and you can take my word to the bank because more often or not, this is going to be right. You should listen to those people about those topics because that's how you learn. You don't necessarily learn by doing all the research yourself. You listen to the experts.
Okay. So related to all of that, I have, and I told you this the other day, and it was really encouraging to hear your response. I bought into a couple things, but one of them is the healthcare product. The healthcare, yeah, right. The healthcare product stuff. I went to this thing, as one does, and they gave their spiel, and the room's all full of people that love it and all of that. But they did explain how it worked, and I found it pretty compelling, and I really do like the idea of, well, first of all, a product that looked like it was interesting to me, and if it really helps people, then that's easy to sell. Yeah, it's easy to sell something that's an actual benefit.
This is coming back to epistemology, is if you do something that is scientifically proven to do the thing that it says it does, then that's truth, right? If you take a Tylenol and it takes your pain away, well, that's a pretty good pain relief. Right. That will sell. Right? Better than a placebo. It's like, if you believe that it will take your pain away, this pill full of water will take your pain away.
And interestingly, some things like, this water, and we've got boxes of thousands of this holy water that's been blessed by the pastor here, whatever, stuff like that does sell, but not like a Tylenol.
No. Well, that's just it. Let's take it into the world of martial arts, because this is hilarious that there are actual entire martial arts that are based on people believing something is going to work. These chi masters and ki masters who use energy and stuff to literally knock people unconscious without touching them. The only people it works on are their students who believe it hook, line, and sinker. It does not work on people who don't. So that's the definition of a placebo. And yeah, you can sell that shit to all your students. And there's a lot of people, believe it or not, who buy into this and they make their masters thousands of dollars, but you can't take that to market. You can't put that in a bottle. Whereas something like epistemology epistemologically proven Tylenol. Doesn't matter if you believe in it or not, it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
It's just got a bigger market. So like what you're saying, if this is something that you're getting into that will help people because it's proven and does help people who used it say it does every time,
Right.
Why wouldn't that sell?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Looks good to me. I mean, I'm really hoping that a couple months from now, I know a whole lot more about it and I've experienced it myself and I'm just blabbing about how good it is, and because it is.
Yeah, we'll bring it up in the podcast between now and then. And I mean, people can follow the journey. And if it worked out, that's great. Yeah. And if it didn't, that's great.
Yeah, totally. Like, I'm not saying the specific name of the product right now, although I think it would matter if I did. But yeah, I'm excited about it. And you said to me, yeah, healthcare products sell really good. And again, I think because of exactly what you're saying. I mean, who doesn't want to be healthy? That's sort of a key piece to everything going well in your life. I'm interested in it. I'm going to be healthy, feel like I'm doing a sales pitch, but I'm not. I literally just want to be more healthy. And I've kind of got this issue where I've got really good genetics.
That's a big issue.
If I do nothing, like, and people are going to hate me for this, but if I could just like play video games, jerk off, and just eat pizza, and I look pretty good.
You'd still have a six pack.
Yeah, I know. It's stupid. It's because like all my relatives are from out east. I don't even know what the DNA is in him, but it's like it matches all the magazines and stuff.
I basically have the same thing. I'm like an ectomorph, which means I got a high metabolism. I stay skinny, but like almost to the point that if I don't deal with it, if I don't eat enough, I get too skinny. So like I'll always have abs, but I'm just like a dumpster. I can put anything in my body and it'll burn it for fuel. Whereas my wife just gets super jealous because when she eats bad, it shows. And when I eat bad, it doesn't show. She calls me the skinniest fat person she knows.
As it does with like most people, I won't tell you who. He knows who he is, but I got in a lot of trouble one time. Jiu-jitsu came in handy this time. I think I told you this story why I was like, oh, it's a good thing I know jiu-jitsu because I got attacked. Remember I told you?
Yes, I do.
I told you what I said? I was hanging out with him and a girl, and he's not exactly thin. And we were talking about pizza or something, and I just said, when I eat pizza, it makes me feel like you look. And he just like lost his shit on me. It was awesome.
That's because that's just the most perfect thing you could say. That joke doesn't have a better timing.
My God. Okay, I won't say his name. I'll tell you another joke that I'm so proud of myself for. And it's this guy, all about my dad and stuff. I won't get into that or whatever. We were talking about that. And this friend of mine, his mom passed away too and stuff. But we were yakking on Facebook and I posted some picture like, in shape. And it's this, I don't know what to say his name, but he's short and he's a redhead and he's feisty. And he said, he made the comment, he's like, your dad's DNA made you look like a pipsqueak, right? And I replied and I said, your dad's DNA made you look like you're crossed with a Chucky doll. And he was just like, angry face. Dude, that was probably almost a year ago. I've been laughing about that for like a few minutes every day ever since. It's just like, oh, that was so good. It was so good. Yeah.
So, man, is there anything else we want to touch on? I feel like this has been really good.
It has been really good. And we could go a long time, and I'll do it again sometime if you want. I've just got a bit of a short window today because there's going to be some Taekwondo kids walking in here screaming hiya and chopping boards real quick. And it does ruin podcasts. You got Taekwondo going on in there? Is that someone else that teaches? Or you?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. No, all right. It was like the jujitsu haya.
No, we got a 5th degree black belt that teaches it here.
Oh yeah, well that's cool. That's cool. I respect the board breaking. Yeah.
You know what's cool is he's taken up Brazilian jiu-jitsu and he's a blue belt under me now.
I did almost forget. I wanted to take you back in like our memories back to my final green belt test because that was a really fun day. Oh. That was a good day.
I don't know if we can properly convey how much that day meant.
Well, that was an interesting day. Yeah, that's a bit of a story.
Yeah.
We could tell it another time.
I think so. I definitely want to come on again. This was fun.
Yeah, this was quick and dirty. I was painting today. Like that's what I do right now. I paint.
How often or how long do you like to do these?
I don't give a shit.
Nice.
I'll go for an hour. I don't care. I'll go for 3 hours.
Stop me if I keep going.
Yeah, it's like you can upload whatever you want. Now I don't care. Cool. I don't care. I'll just talk, Nice. I've got that weird attitude of like, let's do this. I'm doing this YouTube channel and it's like, if it works, cool. If it doesn't, it's just a YouTube channel.
You know what? Even just capturing this stuff for your own benefit and your own edification, it's going to help you. And it's
Yeah.
stuff that you can come back to later years, either for nostalgia or for inspiration. It's still there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, and see where you came from or whatever.
Yep.
Well, here's my hand that I like sliced, taking a nail out of the wall, and like I got all the paint off my hands that I can. And
Yeah.
I've painted for 12 years, and I'm good at it, you know.
Hmm.
But it's just getting to be time. It's like I can do more. And my art, by the way, I'm starting to do it more out of enjoyment. So I'm gonna make
Nice.
some like goofy animation stuff. I'm just going to make whatever I want to make. And we played music together. You and me, we played music
Yep.
together for a lot of years, and that was a hell of a good time.
Hmm.
And I just remember other bands that had the perspective of what's the popular music right now, what's in right now, and they're trying to create and tailor stuff to sort of what's in right now. And
Yeah.
my philosophy and yours and our philosophy always was, we're just going to make what we like.
Does it sound good? Is it fun to play?
Yeah, do we like it?
Yeah.
And I think you find a real, genuine audience just making your stuff, you
Yep.
know, what's interesting to you.
Well, this is something that we've talked about in previous conversations. Whereas if you try to be fake to give them what you think they want, then you have to keep up that charade until it falls down. And it's going to fall down because you can't be something you're not
Hmm,
forever.
right.
Right. But if you start off being who you are, then you can only ever be genuine. And so the people who love that are going to be the people that you want sticking around anyways. You don't have to do any extra work for them.
Yeah. And the people that don't like you for that, it's more about them than it is about you.
Yeah, and you know what? That's fine. They don't have to, and they can go and find someone else they like, and you will just through natural attrition stick around. The people who stick around will be the ones you want anyways. That'll be your
Yeah.
tribe. That'll be the people that vibe with you.
Yeah. Yeah, we could talk about that Greenbelt story another time. We could talk about the criticisms that come and the people that don't know that maybe life would be better if they just went and did something they enjoy better instead of getting in your face and stuff. And I've seen you stand up to some criticism, literally, physically, in front of me
Oh
in
yeah,
some cases.
NBC, hey?
Yeah, in BC. Yeah, yeah. Damn, you handled that well too. But we won't
Yeah.
start that story. But that was a good time. That was a good time. And this has been great, man. Drew,
Yeah,
thanks. Yeah,
pleasure.
yeah. Good to see you, you stinker.
Yeah,
And
you too.
yeah, and shit, I don't know. How do we end it? How do you end it? You're the expert. You've got the podcast with like a bazillion
I
followers.
usually say, talk to you next time, see you in the next one, peace, something like that. They get
All right, all of those.
it. Bye.
All right, see ya.